The broadcast is on.
We are live once again. Hello.
Hello, I am Dr. Tom Allen Liebenois. I am in Los Angeles, California. And you are?
I am Tim Collins, founder, CEO of 4i, and I'm not going to say esteemed colleague, but just colleague and dear friend of Dr. Tom.
It sounded like you said fantasy-o. I'm like, wow, what is a fantasy-o?
Phantom, fantasy.
Fantasy-o,
Right.
fantasy-o. But actually, that's actually kind of works with our topic, right? Imagine, just imagine.
Okay, so thank you, Dr. Tom. Could you introduce today's topic? Since you started.
Yeah, so we have this month as wellness for our topic. And when we set a topic for a month, we still try and fall within our 4i framework to keep us on track on how we would speak about these subjects in some of our leadership training. And at the beginning of the 4i's, let me just say those real quick. Imagine, ignite, immerse, maybe ignite, integrate later, and inspire. Those are the 4i's, our 4 pillars, correct, Tim? Missing anything?
No, you.
And so today we're going to talk about wellness as it would fall into, or we would speak about imagine and ignite. And you want, Tim, you want to talk about the difference of imagine versus ignite?
Sure. So, I mean, imagine is kind of what it says on the tin, but how we're sort of deploying it and using it in our framework is really, it's that sort of vision setting. It's that sort of casting aside the restraint of the current context, and not sort of dismissing, but sort of separating ourselves from whatever the priority or the focus or the reality is right now, and thinking right out ahead as far as we feel is appropriate to do so, and then starting to work back from there, and set typical sort of goal framework and sort of practical application-based steps to take us towards that imagined future state. So that's step one. And then step two is ignite, which is this motion towards action, and really thinking about what are the the catalyzing triggers within ourselves, or if it's an application towards a team or a broader context, an organization or a community, what are the things within ourselves, within those other people, that we can ignite in order to set us off on that goal achievement pathway. Is that a reasonable summation, Dr. Tom? Would you add anything to that?
I would actually, and I would say the difference between imagine and goal setting is that goal setting, set a goal, right? But imagine the ideal way you would get there. Imagine if you were to achieve that goal, what that would look like in a ideal world, right? Because when we set visions, when we set more than just goals, we're giving people a framework, a story, a vision, a mission to achieve. And that it's way more powerful than just a goal. One. And when we ignite, it is more than a movement towards action. I think it's the movement and the action, but it's the passion that you're instilling and the energy that you're inspiring to fulfill the movement towards that goal or towards that vision. So we're trying to elevate goal setting and getting people to do work to something that is more conducive and more relevant and a part of high performance teams. Do you agree?
And teams make the world better.
And being a better world leader. Yes.
No, that was great. Thank you. Your energy is obviously much more narrative orientated today. I feel like you've kind of taken the role that I normally assume in a fantastic. sort of imagination-based language, I'm going to completely cede to your description today. I was trying to keep it concise and simple. But okay, all good. All right, so let's accept those definitions as they are, and let's accept that Dr. Tom's one is far more inspiring than mine, at least today. And let's talk about wellness in this first context of imagining. And
I do want to say this, though, as part of wellness and what we're talking about. This is a perfect example of, this is why we have teams, and this is why we're a great team, is because we recognize when the other one is stronger, or in a given role at a given time, because either one of us can take a lead at any time, and both of us, of course, have greater skills than others in certain areas, but as a whole, we can pretty much carry it. And sometimes one of us is on and one of us is off, and we're able to allow that and to accept that.
Well, I'll just share very briefly, but I think it's contextually relevant and a good demonstration of, like, the causal factors that come into how energy plays out and how you can be maximizing your strength or not. So this morning, hence I'm in this slightly sort of different camera position. My normal work computer has come into some problems. So I've had to adjust and shift and change my pattern and routine, and that's been enough, as well as the navigating the floods that we're experiencing here at the moment to get it to the workshop. That's been enough to put me into a short-term stress situation, right? I'm in this very sort of, immediately, sort of hyper-vigilant mode, not in, an amygdala hijack, not in sort of full kind of crisis mode, but it's just been enough disruption that, without getting deep into the neuroscience, but those like parts of the brain, the neofrontal cortex, which are more visionary, are more creative, are where the more complicated language constructs are.
Right.
I can almost literally feel that those doors are shut right now. So I'm sort of resorting to keep it simple, keep it punchy, and convey enough information, because that's all I've got to offer. We're in a different space right now. So you're interacting much more vividly.
Well, that's really funny, because it's your Monday, so it's your beginning of your workday, and it is my Sunday afternoon, right? So it's your morning, my afternoon. I was actually lounging on the sofa. I was watching TV. I had just completed a bunch of tasks. I was a mess. My hair is sticking up like this and that. And you had texted me, sent to Marco Polo saying, "Hey, are we still doing that today?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, of course." And I'm like, "I don't want to do this." But the thing is that as part of our goal is to continue to do these on a regular basis from this point forward. Yeah. And the vision that we've created and what we've imagined for our future is, by doing this is going to enable us to keep focus, to keep building our business for this year, to achieve the goals that we want to, and to be engaged with our audiences on the different platforms, but also our current and future clients, so that they can see that we're engaged no matter what's going on in our lives.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and a lot of the time with progress, it is as simple as making the commitment and then showing up.
Right.
And again, this is part of the reason why we've opted to do this live. This is designed as a live stream now, because to an extent, all we need to do is show up, and show up and bring whatever it is that we have to offer on this particular day. A different space, one where I need to bring some more light in. Clearly, I've got this real chiaroscuro going on this morning. But here we are, hopefully with something to offer, hopefully something that will be informative and helpful and applicable. And so here we go. So all good constructs to confirm, Dr. Tom. But let's get into the key topic for today, because I'm so conscious of our time.
So last week we had talked about Australia has already started their second phase of pandemic vaccines moving forward, and people going back to the offices. and what that looks like. And here we're still, we're not quite there yet, but we're looking at opportunities to be able to do that. So it's a perfect time for us to imagine what wellness for the organization is going to look like. Now, right now, people are just thinking wellness, oh, they're either going to be in the office, people are going to either be in the office or out of the office. It's like, well, this is actually, we don't talk about my research a lot, but one of the things in my research that I showed high stress on when you work virtually, it's when you're shifting back and forth between doing virtual work and hands-on work.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're completely in virtual mode, you will tend to create a rhythm. If you're in face-to-face, you'll create a rhythm. If you're jumping back and forth, you tend to become higher stressed because you feel like you're being pulled in multiple directions. And I think we're going to start seeing that more with people, especially as they go back to work and then out of work, because if you're not used to it, I've been doing it for so many years that I can easily go back and forth. However, what's going to happen in people that aren't used to this is they're going to realize, oh my God, the stuff I needed, I left at home, or the stuff that I need at work is, or I'm at home and I left it at work. And there's going to be this length of time that you're probably going to have some increased stress from people just because they're going to have to acclimate again to another form of work. And leaders are going to start to think that, oh, wait, it's just going to be easier because they're going to have some days in the office. It's not that simple.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's so many reasons to, to factor well-being in to right now. But imagining the sort of the best version of well-being, I mean, to me, I kind of equate a lot of it into the kind of the ideal version of psychological safety, right? When you're truly well, you feel entirely safe. You recognize that you have a role in making others feel truly safe, and in a really sort of universally idealistic sense, everyone feels truly safe. And as we've seen, in our own lives and in our own work and in the research, and really deep, studies now really show that psychological safety essentially underpins almost everything that creates value organizationally. So that for me is like, you need to be well because it basically underwrites everything that you're actually turning up to do.
Well, what's really interesting is I wonder if people were truthful, they stopped and asked themselves, how safe do I feel at work? Or leaders saying, does psychological safety exist here? And what is psychological safety? It's lack of judgmentalness. Now, you can have judgment, but being judgmental, right, about people thinking, lack of openness of hearing differing opinions, lack of diversity, lack of cultural sensitivity, lack of, bullying, not lack of, but hopefully no bullying. But if there's bullying in any way, if there is a mandate of hierarchy, all these elements add to psychological unsafety.
Yeah, I think that the two extras that I'd add to that, and that's a very constructive list already there, Dr. Tommy, is there should be the presence of inclusion and belonging. And a lot of the things that you've touched on, like those are the sort of the building blocks of those two things. But you can have kind of everything sort of architecturally in the right place. But it really doesn't take much to be done badly for a culture, an environment that has all of the sort of hallmarks of being inclusive to not be inclusive, and for people to stop feeling like they belong.
Yeah. there's two other things, and one that people would not think of. One is time pressures, right? And by reduced staff and everything that has happened, some businesses have thrived, but some have had to cut back. And now, but those people left, those time pressures, huge. And so what does it look like to relieve some of that, hopefully, for the people who are there? Because otherwise engagement is going to go out the window and turnover is likely. But the other one to watch out for is overcompensation. Because when somebody is overcompensating, if they're working too long, if they're not separating from work, if they're making themselves sick, if you're giving too much of yourself to work, it is likely you are overstressed to the point of you can make yourself clinically stressed, which requires, other interventions.
Agreed. Hey, I'm just keeping an eye on the time. I'm kind of being the custodian. We just got a couple more minutes left in the time allowance that we set for ourselves. So do you want to take the lead on the Ignite?
What I would say with Ignite is take action. Look at your business. Think about one of those topics that we talked about. Find a mechanism, search for some help, look for some ways there's articles. If you need some more help, reach out to us. We'll give that to you. But take action towards making a plan for this world that you're imagining to achieve the goals that you're setting, right? So to be able to ignite, what is it you're going to do different that is going to give people energy to move forward into this next phase?
Yeah, I love that.
In a healthy way.
Yeah. So not too much to build on, or not too much, lots to build on, not too much to add to that. I think what I will contribute is this conversation that we had with Michael Bungay Stanier for Better World Leaders. There was this great phrase that he had that we've sort of extracted out of that, which is when you do things differently, you become different, which sounds very sort of obvious, but I think it's kind of a really understated fact that it is actually by doing things, right? It's the verbiage in there, like it's the verb of doing things differently that you become different. And thinking is part of that, but it really is the taking action. It's the ignition part. So in the imagine bit, think about the better, more well version of yourself, which creates well-being and safety for everybody. And then pick something about yourself that you can, invest some time or energy in that will make you better. And that's the initial, sort of ignition. So that might be sleep, it might be nutrition, it might be, counteracting your stress and managing your stress. And, have a look at the articles that Dr. Tom and I, put out last week about some of the first steps in that process. But it's, start doing something differently with consideration for the consequences and what the outcomes might be, and stick with that long enough to feel yourself becoming different. And then you can add something else and something else and something else, and so it goes.
Absolutely. I think that's good.
Okay. In which case, we'll say that's a wrap for today. And certainly from me.
Wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
Put a bow on it. Put a bow on it.
As you can tell, this is very slick, highly produced enterprise with a very large team of people supporting us. Okay, I will say fairly well from a very wet and rainy New South Wales this morning, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.
Yes, and fare thee well from a very sunny and warm and beautiful Southern California.
All right, see you next time.